Hello my virtual nomads, I'm Trevor Anderson and welcome to the next episode of Review Fluxx. You know, on the cusp of the release of Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn, a reviewer must choose which game they're going to critically evaluate. Which of these worlds will I venture into and discover? Never mind, I'm broke. I guess I'll just play Witcher 3 and see what all the buzz was about last year. Now, I'm not a big fan of the franchise. I played a little of 2 when I got it for free last year, but it really didn't resonate with me. But everyone kept telling me I need to try this entry. That was a good jumping on point that was fun to play and had some fantastic side quests. Since I've now played it, I'm thoroughly convinced that gamers will ignore problems in a game as long as they get to see some EA boobies in the end. I'll be putting more on that later. Obviously, that's not the only reason the game pulled in an audience. It really is a decent enough game. It succeeds in some areas, but lacked the imagination needed to fully capture me in any meaningful way.
Still, you should have asked if...
But you were asleep, Uncle Vesemir.
While I never played the previous entries, the game does a decent enough job explaining the security over liberty world that you're entering. You play as a witcher named Geralt, an albino man who takes down supernatural monsters like he's a medieval man in black. He's part of an order tasked with taking on these creatures, and yet for some reason everyone seems to hate them?
Ah, I see. You a witcher. That monster slayer that he's talking about in the village.
I'm not sure why everyone hates these superhuman fighters, considering I wouldn't be grabbing a rake and running up a hill to take on a dragon anytime soon. I guess people just don't trust heroes in the kingdom of the Northern Realms, a war-torn nation that's under the control of the Nerfgaardian Empire. The Empire kills anyone who appears to be involved in witchcraft or the supernatural, including some of your own allies. The main quest is a simple enough premise of finding the Emperor's daughter Ciri, a young girl able to manipulate space-time. It's a fun and engaging enough premise, but it's a long-winded stretch of clues that always seem to lead to people who are looking for quid pro quos, for some fucking personal shit. They just want to fucking take you.
Those who see the beasts, meet him, well, they generally don't come back to dry land alive.
Each time, these people will request another major quest out of you for some basic-ass information. Yo, I'm looking for a girl on a horse. I'm looking for someone to kill a giant snake. Have you seen this girl that smells like berries? Yep, and I'll only tell you where if you destroy that goblin den over there. Hey, do you have the time? Sure. Do you kill wraiths? There are some awesome moments in the campaign, including one about a rogue griffin seeking vengeance for their slain love against a whole town. Rogue Griffin. It literally sounds like the most awesome revenge movie ever. Rogue Griffin, voiced by Charles Bronson. When the game does cleverly set up an interesting premise, they usually just end it with you killing the monster and collecting the contract. These larger battles are fun, probably the highlight of the game, but they lack any emotional or analytical value and they just feel like a checklist instead of engaging elements. Determined, I tried to avoid roads and cut across long stretches of land on horseback, which is awesome. Horse riding? Oh, you nailed it. Fucking nailed it, not really. Always to disappointingly arrive at the destination the game has already arranged for me. I was crazy excited when the game gave me this little skiff to take out in the high seas, only to find the islands off the beaten trail didn't have anything to offer adventurers either. I honestly can't help feeling that this is more barren than most RPGs. The storylines feel overly reliant on the series' own lightly borrowed mythos. For example, in this scene, I'm looking for someone, so they direct me to a creature in the woods. This godling is unable to speak, so I walk up this mountain to fight off some birds and recover a thing that returns his voice. The act impresses a woman enough to let me talk to these witches that are living in a painting, and then they send me off to some... This is where it all starts to become a blur, a sludge of ideas that don't really have a clear line connecting them from beginning to end. It just results in several missions where you completely lose track of how you even got here. In its attempt to jam in as many characters and ideas as possible, it all just becomes incomprehensible. I remember side missions in Oblivion where they were memorable, like Murder Party, going into that painting. Jeez! To break up the monotony of the main storyline, there are side missions and monster contracts, but there aren't any that are interesting. There's literally one where it's like, my cart ran off the road, go get the stuff. And you do. You do. The game also panders to its fans by including in some overly confusing moments, like this one where Geralt falls asleep only to dream about James Franco and a delightful bird friend. Was I supposed to know what the fuck that was? What? Geralt, your buff, sexy sploosh machine of a hero, may be one of the most boring protagonists I've played in a while. He's overly stiff, stoic, and lacks any identifiable traits, unless you count having a throat full of gravel.
I can do that. Where'd you toss the package?
He usually has two options in conversations. A nice one, or a mean one. You can tell the difference, right? A nice one, mean one. Nice one, mean one. Either way, most conversations won't be affected by either choice you choose, so you can either have a friendly or mean 2x4 as your adventurer. Probably Geralt's biggest trait is that he gets more octopussy than James Bond. If I want to watch porn, I'll watch porn. I've got porn up behind this video right now. You want to see some? Click here for nudes. I don't need to play a mediocre game for several hours to get a taste of some polygonal mams. Despite my lack of knowledge in the series, I could tell that Yennefer was Geralt's main squeeze. So I went on some missions with her, did our usual fucked on a unicorn, that kind of thing. And after an adventure to release Jin from Lost, I pledged my love to her. A very sweet scene. Immediately afterwards, she tells me that we shouldn't put labels on anything and sends me back out into the world so I can creepily watch women bathe. I guess I'm free to have identical sex with every woman I come across. Seriously, it's the same animation for almost every woman you can sleep with. I mean, look at this. It's hands overhead. Ooh, art. Ooh, I got that art going on. You know what I mean? I guess they didn't think we would notice. You can't play a game with one hand, people. One thing I did notice, however, was how precise the dialogue is. It's simple enough to pick up and does have a nice diversity of personalities and ideals.
No faculty meetings to attend, no tenure to gain, end notes to compile. First soldier you see will kill you.
Why would he do that? Me? A neutral civilian? A scholar?
Boots.
Come again?
He'll kill you for your boots.
Damn. Every character feels fleshed out, which isn't too surprising considering this being the third entry and all, but it was nice to dive into characters who were far more interesting than my grim warrior Geralt. CD Projekt Red put a lot of effort into the group combat system, which feels like a balanced Arkham City mechanic with a complex and yet approachable magic system. You have a quick attack, a powerful attack, a roll, and a duck as your main forms of melee attacks, but you can also shoot bolts, throw grenades, and use potions to help change the tides of battle. Magic is regulated to 5 options: a temporary shield, force push, magic trap, confusion spell, and a giant burst of fire. It's easy to pick up and feels very complex, but it's easily exploitable. My go-to tactic for most battles was to swoop in with a heavy attack, dodge away, and repeat while re-upping my shield. This thankfully doesn't work on every enemy, however, as some wraiths and other supernatural enemies require you to weaken them with spells or utilizing special oils to prevent their safeguards, adding some nice welcome strategy to the engagements. Geralt also has a tracking mode where you go all Sherlock to investigate your surrounding areas. I wanted to feel like a master monster hunter, but this feature really boils down to turning on some bad effects in order to see glowing footprints and scents. In the end, it just feels like a boring minigame where you follow a glowing path to something more interesting, and you never really feel like you're discovering anything on your own. Not only that, but most of the time, the discovery is ruined by some nonsensical bullshit, like finding a note sticking out of a grave that pretty much gives you the culprit on a silver platter. You never stumble upon any Zelda-like wonderment, but rather a bland acceptance of things.
Looks like rain.
Yeah, I know. My biggest problem with the game is the lack of mystery. It just poking around corners and exploring the map doesn't reward you with anything other than untimely death due to invisible walls or even falling off the map. I mean, this wouldn't be such a bad deal, except the game infrequently saves, meaning curiosity may set the cat back 10 minutes. In fact, the game doesn't do much to add mystery to the experience, and puzzles usually result in you setting lanterns on fire and in the right order. The game is also constantly interrupting the action to give you controls, which can help newer gamers but does detail some pretty unneeded explanations. I once wrote a review where I questioned if there had ever been a good card game in an RPG, and thankfully I've been proven wrong. Gwent is a fantastic distraction away from the humdrum world of killing monsters, and most shop owners are willing to bet on games. The basic rule is that you have to have 3 rows of engagement: close combat, ranged, and siege. You place your numbered cards on these rows, which all add up to your total point count. Your goal is to place the cards down to either help your cards or to minimize your opponent's units. You're given 8 cards from the start, so using your cards effectively across 3 rounds is important, and you may want to throw that first round just to stack the odds on the later 2. Like Magic the Gathering, it's a simple premise but with a lot of strategy. If I had one negative thing to say, it would be that the game uses different in-game armies to represent different decks, and finding enough cards for the other decks takes way too long. Now, in terms of visuals, man oh man, this game looks fantastic. The high-res models glisten and represent the pinnacle of today's graphics, and the lighting just gives everything so much depth. It might be one of the best looking games I've played this year. However, it does have mixed results due to technical errors and lack of environmental additions. All the environments are flat, repetitive, and rife with texture popping and rendering problems. There's no excitement when you roll into a town. Every tavern feels the same and every shop has the same worthless items. I don't know how many times I had trees shaking through a wall during deep conversations with my characters. I mean, it's really unfortunate as all the pieces' finer details are astonishing. I just wish they were handled with more care. For example, no matter how you approach it, the camera in this shop always has a flag flying in front of your face. NPCs are lifeless, jobless, soulless, either posted up against walls or forever shoveling the same spot. They fail to have the essence needed to sell them as real people. While some work pretty well, most tend to look and move in very similar ways to others, regardless of the situation. They are also indifferent to everything that's happening around them. This sword fight failed to impress this vendor at all. Like nothing, dude? Not even a head turn? I mean, we were swinging swords right by your head. You just don't give a fuck, do you, bro? Is that why you're wearing that hat? Okay, I wouldn't even mind that so much. That's almost understandable, but I went into a town and there was this guy there. He was doing like tournament fighting. And they asked me, hey, do you want to fight the champion? And I was like, yeah, sure. And the champion came up to me and said, hey, I really would like if you would throw this fight for me because I stand no chance against you. You're a witcher, but my girl's over there and it would mean a lot if you would do that for me. So I threw the fight, right? And then kicked my ass. And I talked to him again and he wants to act like he doesn't know who I am.
Wonder if he's as strong as he looks.
Out of me sight.
He doesn't even take his girl anywhere. He just continues standing there, insulting me with a completely different voice. Despite the game having some decent writing and voice acting and some amazing models, character animations are without passion. Seriously, this mocap actor looks like he's thinking to himself, can you believe this shit? Where's my check? Not to mention the cavalcade of Dur faces that I've compiled for you. Enjoy. Alright, enough of that. On a technical level, this game is a bit of a mess. Load times are ridiculously long and will sometimes play an animatic recap constantly. The horse, which is supposed to run along roads, and through paths on their own, for some reason just books into random directions on occasion. I had several moments where the game froze up or I just straight fell through the map and ended up in an evil limbo with random voice clips.
Sorry, I just don't share your doubts. Know exactly which one of you's real. Now focus on the fight.
I mean, just look at these immersion-breaking moments. I mean, that last one, I probably could have played fair and approached the cave monster, but you need to understand, I was getting my ass kicked. Now, audio is a mixed bag. Some actors really put in the effort, and you can tell that they're attempting to convey proper emotions.
Nilfgaard's crossed the Pontar in the east. Puts them maybe a week's march from Kaer Morhen. If they reach the valley before snows can cover the passes, well, we need to cover our tracks, hide our paths.
But then there's deliveries like this.
Worthy of the best horse. The mare is yours.
Thank you!
Music works well, but after a while the shallow amount of tracks become more and more obvious. There's like 5 go-to tracks that the game alternates between, and having each location or area have its own music would have done wonders to add diversity to an already repetitive experience. Mixing in sound effects are pretty good, and scenes do feature some subtle design that should be appreciated. Overall, I was not impressed by The Witcher 3, and it really only feels like a slightly better than average RPG. There is some great potential here, but it feels like the designers wanted to impress us in the first few hours as opposed to delivering a coherent and engaging experience throughout. The narrative starts to fall apart, and the burst of excitement you get in the beginning is quickly squandered due to what feels like a lack of interest from everyone involved. The tense battles may be the game's only redeeming quality, but it's probably trumped by more focused games like Monster Hunter. Unless you're really hard up for some digital tatas, I would pass this one up. Hey, make sure you send your hate mail to channelfluxx@gmail.com because I don't understand 10 out of 10 for this game. But hey, each their own. My opinion is just as wrong as everyone else's, so... And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because I'm gonna keep putting these bitches out. I won't keep putting them out. Can't stop me. You can hate me or you can love me. You can get the fuck out. Best YouTube outro ever.